Oh, you want me?
Oh, yeah, we're going. No, we're good. No, you're good. You're good.
You want me to call you in?
Sorry, I was just staring.
I was trying to give you space. I don't know, man, if you were talking with the Father and, he gave you something.
We are all becoming someone. In fact, whatever has captured your attention and the things that you find yourself doing the most is very much shaping the kind of person that you are becoming. For those of us who follow Jesus, we refer to this as spiritual formation, which is a way for us to understand that if we want to become more like Jesus, then we need to consider doing the very things that Jesus himself did. And so today, I want to talk to you about the practice of curiosity. Now, I would define it as the practice of humbly learning about life, people, and God by leading with questions and releasing assumptions. You know, one of the best things about you and I is that we are limited people. You're limited in your energy, your time, right? Your life is limited, and this is a gift. It's a beautiful thing to acknowledge that you don't know everything, and neither do I, and we're okay to be in that place. It's humble and a beautiful thing to acknowledge that. Even back in the garden when God first created everything, he made Adam and Eve, he didn't give them all knowledge. He told them to go discover, to learn, to cultivate, and bring about the world as we know it. He called them to go and to learn. Even Proverbs 18:15 says that the intelligent person is always ready to learn, and the ear is always open to knowledge. We see this modeled even in Jesus' life. As you become familiar with his story through Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and John, you see that when Jesus encountered people, they would come to him with questions, and then he himself would respond with a question. Jesus modeled for us what curiosity can look like. And one of the reasons why I think we need this today is because our world and our lives, our personal lives, are so fragmented. And by that I mean our thinking is fragmented. Our mind is all over the place on different things that we have to do. A lot of stuff is swirling up there. Our time is fragmented so that we feel kind of pulled in 1,000 different directions. And then also our relationships are very fragmented. Many people today point out how our world is so polarized, and so we naturally kind of disconnect from one another and place each other in categories. We label one another. And listen, just being honest, that is a much easier way to interact with each other, because as soon as I've labeled you and categorized you, I no longer have to do the hard work of trying to understand who you are. But curiosity and the practice of curiosity is about leading with questions in a way that I can discover and learn something about you. Even when Jesus taught us to pray, he said, "Your kingdom come," which is a way that kind of leads us to think about, God, how is your kingdom coming? And where is it coming, right? It leads us to be open to the reality that God is active and he's doing things in places and in people. And so we need curiosity so that we might return to a place where we're ready, we're humble, we're ready to learn, ready to discover more about you so that we might understand you and see where God is at work in the world around us. And here's how I think we can begin to practice this. First, I want you to recognize and identify your passions. I would argue that many of those passions are in fact God-given passions. And so a desire to learn a new skill set, to explore a particular place in the world, to interact with a certain kind of person, that is a beautiful passion. Pursue those things and allow them to magnetically pull you in a way that leads with questions so that you might learn about people. And yes, this should to some degree make you uncomfortable, and that's a good thing, because oftentimes you might learn things from people who you don't fully align with or agree with, but that doesn't mean they don't have something to teach you. And so secondly, lead with those questions. Continue to ask and discover the whats, the hows, and the whys. And then thirdly, I would say, actually spend time with kids. Like when you get around children, they have a way of viewing life and viewing the world that is so rooted in curiosity. And it, for us as adults, I think helps us to return to a place where we also are not filled with kind of despair or holding on to our assumptions where we're closed off, but we're open again to seeing the world through the eyes of a child. And they can help us cultivate curiosity, which of course leads me to think of the way Jesus talked to us. He said, unless you become like children, and by that he didn't mean childish and immature, but childlike, in that you're dependent, you're humble, you're a learner, you're a lifelong learner, then you can't enter the kingdom of God. Unless you and I become like children, we can't enter the kingdom. And so my offer to you is to practice this gift of curiosity. And ultimately to see this practice not as just kind of a self-improvement task. A lot of people understand formation as about making you a better person, but this is so that we might become people of love. Because a barrier, I think, to loving our neighbors well, as Jesus calls us to, is that we're not curious about them. So that if we can get to a place in where we practice curiosity, it might lead us to become not just better people, but better people who are formed into the image of Jesus, who can love others well. Grace and peace.
Cut. Woo, bro.
Was that it?